Good evening. It's like we're rocking and rolling. Dog is digging in the toy box at the moment. All right, so we're only streaming through Facebook this evening because I did a live interview with Miss Rachel Ragsdale of NAPAWS Brain Centers on Instagram. And we honestly don't know if you could do 2 lives in one day without it kicking it off. So we're just hanging out here, recording, and it'll be in here. So tonight we are working on standing and walking optimization. So I get this question a lot with patients about what muscles should be working. And the common, response is making sure that your butt is working. You want your glutes to be activating. So the biggest thing is there's 2 general functions of the glutes. So as we are, if I'm here, move your butt, Heidi, move your butt. So as I bring my leg back, I got glute max, this big one here working. As I rotate my glute or my leg externally and internally, these little side glutes work. So you want to be coordinating all of them together, and it can be a challenging thing to do. But what I want you guys to leave tonight with is just an idea of what to feel for. Okay, so let's jump into that feeling of the big glute max working. So if you go ahead and lay on your back, what I want you to do here is you're gonna squeeze your butt cheeks as if you were holding a pencil between them and you can't drop it. So as I squeeze my butt, holding that pencil and then dropping back down. So go ahead and do a few of those. And this is just gonna help kind of wake up your brain and your awareness of that area. You can even put your hands down here if you wanna feel for it. You may feel the side ones working a little bit, but for the most part, you are going to feel that big mover back there. So then if you lay on one side here, and what I'm gonna have you do here is you can bend your knees about 90 degrees, keep your heels together, and we're gonna do a little clamshell here. So you're gonna lift your knee up and your foot without moving anything here. So as I lift, you should feel kind of this side dimple area here. And we're gonna roll these areas out so that you can get a little bit more awareness. But this is that one that controls that rotation. So once we jump into that a little bit later, at least you have a little bit of sensation, and hopefully you can feel that difference from the side versus the big area. So let's grab either your foam roller or double balls here. And we're just gonna work the big glute area here. So anywhere around that butt cheek, you can go kind of close to your tailbone. We'll just roll back and forth here. You can go up against the wall as well. We're just working that larger butt cheek area. So what'll happen is when people think of squeezing their glutes when they're walking or standing, we end up mostly using the one that pretends like it's holding a pencil between the butt cheeks. And that makes us a very stiff human being because it's really hard to move with that. So it's a lot of learning to use that big glute max one leg at a time. So that's one part of it, but also to use more of this side glute. So that's what we're gonna dive into. Using more glute med and glute min. So go ahead and hold a spot here. And you're just gonna bring that leg out and back I can also straighten and bend here. Knee popping. Let's go ahead and find a second spot here. Do a few little windshield wipers. And then bend and straighten. So we're gonna go to the side glute area here. So what I want you to feel, it's actually hard to feel when your leg's out. So this, it's kind of there should be a little kind of dimple area. We've got leg bone here, right behind there. So the ball is gonna go like this. So we're gonna lay on the side, and if you work with firmer tools, you may end up deciding to go to the wall for this one, and that's just fine. So take a deep breath, let your body settle on the area. So you're kind of right up against that leg bone. That's why it's not super comfortable to have a really firm ball. And then what I can do slowly is try to bend and straighten that leg. It doesn't have to be a very wide range of motion, but man, that's tight. There we go. I'm gonna add a little kind of rocking back and forth. Make sure if you're doing this that you're not dumping into your shoulder so we don't leave with a cranky shoulder at the end of this. You should hopefully feel everything kind of relaxing a little bit. So we're on that area, that glute med, that glute min. Tinier but powerful muscles to control this leg movement. Okay, go ahead and come on off of that side for a second. And all I want you to do here is we're gonna try a couple of those hip bridges again. So squeeze the pencil between your butt cheeks and just see if you can feel a difference side to side. This side that I rolled is just on fire. It's active, it's strong. The other side feels like it's a little bit delayed. There's less awareness, honestly, of my brain to my glutes here. So before we go to the other side, what I want you to do is go ahead and stand up. And I want you to try just balancing on this leg that we worked. And as you can keep one toe down if you need to, but try to activate that glute and see if you can feel that butt cheek working. So I'm feeling for is the back side, but also this side muscle activating. And if you can see when it's active and when it's not, you can see my pelvis just kind of drop and then it's active. So then if I try this here on the non-rolled side, you can just kind of feel that difference. So let's roll on the other side here. So now we're just going back to that larger butt cheek area. Pick any direction, angle. Go up to that tailbone area. Okay, go ahead and hold a spot. Add some of that rotation here. Add some of that straightening. Go to that second spot. Just ate my dinner way too fast. Stuck in my throat. And then straighten. Okay, so let's come on off. Find that dimple area here. And we're going vertical. So leg bone right on that, right behind it. So there we go. Just gonna lay here, settle in. There we go. And then once you settle in, we can try some of that bottom leg movement. I can try rocking back and forth. Hopefully it's starting to settle. It's a really, really tight area. So when we talk about a muscle being tight, there's essentially a optimal length of a muscle for it to activate and contract properly. So if it's too short, too tight, it's not going to activate well. If it's too long, so maybe it's overstretched, it's not going to activate well either. So what we're doing here is trying to get some blood flow in here, again, connecting that muscle to the brain, but also trying to change the kind of the makeup of the muscle so that it can contract a little bit easier. So if we come on off of the ball here, let's try a couple of those hip bridges here. So squeezing and already squeezing, you should feel a little bit of that difference. And then come back. Should feel nice and solid on that, on both sides now that we've activated them. Okay, so go ahead and stand back up for me. And what I want you to feel here now is, these are the perfect pants for this. So if I take the palm of my hand here and feel the outside of that leg bone and just twist my leg, you'll feel that bone pop into the hand. So when we stand, you want this bone to ideally be, there we go, in line with the outside of this ankle bone. So what'll happen is we get a little lazy. We kind of hang forward. And what we're doing here is you can actually see my glutes go pretty, they're just kind of saggy a little bit, versus when I'm back, they're a little bit more active. So here they're a little bit more asleep. And what I end up doing is hanging on my back like this. So bringing your legs back, that's gonna help us have more awareness of this area. The other common posture is to do this. So when we kick one leg to the side, same thing, it's really hard. You can even try to squeeze this glute that you're being a little lazy on, and it's much harder than if you were straight forward like this. So when we are walking, as I take a step forward, you can see this leg going back. So that's mostly what this glute max muscle does, is it brings this leg back. What these smaller ones on the side actually do is they control our leg and keep it from doing this. So if I squeeze this glute, it pulls my leg back in line so that my foot is protected, my knee is protected, my entire upper, my whole body. So as I take a step, this glute controls that landing Because if I'm walking, I'm going to be dramatic, but if I'm walking and this is happening every time, I'm going to start to get my knees to be a little bit more worn out. So see if you can feel that. You can have the palms of your hands more on that dimple of your butt cheek. Just squeeze your butt and then relax and then squeeze. And you should see my knees kind of rotate, rotating out. That's that muscle that we want to do. But we're going to do a little bit of mobility, a little bit more mobility to see if we can get a little bit more activation there for you. So double balls. What we're going to do is we're going to go we're going to go vertical on the side of your leg. So I'm going to be here and I'm going to be propped up on my forearm again. So we're getting a little workout here. You can also go up against a wall and I'm just rolling back and forth here. So I'm below that hip bone. We don't need to go directly on it. So we're peeling back and forth between quad, rolling over the IT band to the hamstring, and just going back and forth nice and slow here. So a lot of times what will happen is there's a lot of resistance in these tissues here because, again, they're kind of stuck together. And what happens is your glutes are trying to get your body in a good position, but since this is all connected, this tension is making it a lot harder for those glutes to actually kick in. So let's drop down a little bit lower. And once we go a little bit lower, you can actually keep your hip down and do a little bit more leg movement. So just back and forth. If you find a really tight, sore spot, go ahead and add some of that bending, straightening. So I'm not usually a huge foam roller person for the IT band anymore. I used to be, but as we've kind of learned about it, we don't necessarily need to be loosening up the IT band itself. So that's this, there's a muscle up here and the IT band is this thick connective tissue that runs down the side. But it's actually that IT band not moving well independent of the quad muscle and the hamstring. So what the balls do, let's go down one more level closer to that knee. What the balls do is they work more of those connections for you versus just the foam roller. They can kind of fit into those nooks and crannies of the connection between those muscles. So personal preference. But anatomically too, I think it just fits into those positions a little bit better. Add some of that bending and straightening. Make sure you're getting as close to the knee as possible, especially if you have knee stuff. All right, so lots of up and down tonight. So go ahead and stand back up. See if you can get a feel for that. So squeeze your glute. And what I feel is this muscle's working now, but there's almost this smooth rotation of my right leg out, whereas the left just feels that delay. So hopefully you can kind of feel that. You may just, again, have a little bit more awareness on that side. Awareness is the key to starting to make that change, so we'll take it. Okay, so vertical on your leg here, rocking and rolling, nice and slow. So I just did a webinar with someone else on Friday night. We were working through movement and mobility at home with a chiropractor, a guy from Rod Roller, acupuncturist, and then, yeah, that was it.
And what I loved is the chiropractor was talking about this idea of conscious or unconscious incompetence. So the idea of you don't know what you don't know. So you have this unconscious thing and you're incompetent because you don't know about it. And what we do is we move it into this conscious incompetence. So now we know, we just learned, let's say, how to use our glutes, but we're still incompetent because it's new. We haven't learned it completely yet. So this class, this paying attention to it and getting to know your body here, go ahead and drop down lower, has moved it from unconscious to conscious, and practicing it is what's going to make you competent at it. And one of the fun things that I've learned during quarantine is with all the virtual sessions that I'm doing with my patients, and a lot of, especially moms with kids at home that haven't necessarily been able to exercise the way that they normally do, teaching them to use their glutes during daily activities, which ideally we're doing anyways because it supports and protects our body. But teaching them how to use them in the kitchen, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm pooped. That was like the hardest workout, just doing my dishes or making dinner or something like that. So bringing it into that conscious part of our brain and just building that competency through practice has been just the way to go. And you just have to give yourself patience with it because it may take some time. But what's cool is you have these balls that you can bring awareness to and remind your brain, hey, remember this area can work for you, not against you. You can add some of that bending and straightening. All right, there we go. Okay, let's go ahead and stand back up. I'm gonna take a sip of water. So stand back up and see if you can feel that difference side to side. So again, just a smoother path here. Okay. So this chain, it's basically a chain reaction. The second that your foot hits the ground, we want everything to kind of spiral up. We're not gonna hit all of them tonight, but the last one we're gonna hit here is the foot, because it is very important for that to be controlling our hip and our knee as well. So if you stand, feet underneath your hips, what I want you to do is rotate your body to the left. So as I go to the left, you should feel, I should feel this left arch kind of lifting up and this right one collapsing. And as I turn here, right one lifts, left one collapses. And as I do this, my foot's not actually coming off of the ground. It's just this area lifting up. So a lot of times this will happen, but we want to keep that foot on the ground and just kind of check in. Do I have an arch that doesn't lift quite as well? Do I have one that doesn't collapse quite as well? We actually want both of those things to be happening. So we're gonna take single ball out here, and we're just gonna bring some light awareness to this area to show you it doesn't take a ton of effort here. So usually we smush the ball here, but right now I want you to just lightly roll all around the surface of your foot. You can go over the knuckles, over the heel, Just doing about 30 seconds here, and just to kind of show a point that sometimes it's just waking the areas up. So before we do the other side, check in, try a couple rotations side to side and get a feeling for that. So this side just feels a little bit lighter, a little bit less work to get it going. So we're just going gentle. So this is why a lot of, I love recommending doing some of this stuff, even just 30 seconds on each side before you walk or run. Because a lot of times we've just been either sitting or our feet have been kind of crammed in shoes. And so your body just might not be ready to accept your weight, to control your weight as you're walking or running. So if we can just wake it up a little bit, we'll be much happier. Okay. Much, much happier. So pretty cool stuff, huh? Just kind of waking the brain up. So let's just finish with some glute stretches since we focused on that this evening. So what I'm gonna have you do here is one leg out in front of you, and you're just gonna cross the other leg, other foot on your knee, and then just kind of twist towards that crossed knee. So here you're gonna feel a little bit more up in your spine, but we're gonna ease into the glute here as we use our elbow to pull our knee across. So you might be feeling this pulling all in here. If you want a little bit more intensity, you can actually sneak that other foot to that. So we twist like a pretzel. Come on out of that. Other side, cross that foot over here. Just kind of ease into the twist first. And then you can add that bottom leg if you'd like. So as you guys are kind of moving throughout your activities the next couple days, just have that awareness. And if you have trouble activating that side glute or that single butt cheek, that bigger muscle when you're standing and walking, go to your balls for a little bit. Roll 30 seconds, a minute, something like that, and just get some, wake it up. If you've just been sitting, it just might need a little bit of help. Okay, let's lay back on your back here. Cross ankle on top of your knee and try to let that knee drop to the side. Keep that top foot nice and active and just lift your hips up. You should feel nice stretch in the front. If you don't want to lift, you can just stay here and push a little bit. Then you can lower your hips, and we'll just do a brief little twist here. So I'm going to let this foot drop to the ground to get a nice stretch down on this outside. And you can come back to center, switch up those legs. Check out my dirty foot here. You can stay here, push your knee back, or lift your glutes up. And lower those hips down. Drop that foot down to the ground. And then we can go ahead and roll to your side and come on up. So one tip I will leave you with as you're practicing with this walking and moving around is to try to think of leaving your heel on the ground a little bit longer than you would think when you're walking. And that kind of naturally turns that on. And that just kind of, it's just a tip that a lot of my patients find really helpful as a cue to working on that area. So keep playing with that. Please share these tips with people, with your loved ones as you guys are out walking the pups or just walking around. Even just pre-running, walking like that a little bit to get those areas to wake up will be really good. So keep sharing your requests. We will be back on Instagram as well on Sunday evening. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good evening and I will see you then. Bye.